Loud and Color Studio presents The Single Files with B.Kadijat. Hey you guys, y'all already know who it is, but if you do not, it is your girl B.Kadijat, and you are now entering into The Single Files. If you are returning, welcome back, and if this is your first time here, welcome home. Now let's get started. All right, so before we start, getting deeper into the show, I usually love to start off now. We're just doing like a mental check-in, I think it's just more for like myself, but then also I want to create like an environment and space or a moment that where, you as a listener, you are taking a moment to just kind of reflect on like where you are at right now, whether it's for the day, from the week, from the month, from the year, because there's a lot of shit going on in 2026, honey. But I think it's just great that, I have this moment just to kind of like do this check-in, with myself, just to kind of reflect. So, some of like the basic questions that I may ask is like, how are we actually doing? And I'm not just talking about like, I'm fine or I'm doing okay or I'm decent, as some Chicago people will say. Those are surface level answers, right? Those are answers that sometimes we may share with our friends if we don't want to get too deep. We may share with a coworker if they're, just genuinely asking. But, we're not doing that right now. So, like, really just ask yourself, like, how am I doing? Like, for real. So, just take a deep breath, get comfortable. And, just really just take a moment of, like, if you want to actually make this, like, into a journal prompt, you can, because I will be doing that before we close out the show. So for me, I'll go first, since I'm talking. I think lately I have been, on this nonstop ride of, just trying to survive. I'm trying to learn how to better control it. I've gotten to a space where a lot of things outside of me are completely out of my control. Finances, work, all the bullshit that's happening in our economy right now, all the bullshit that's happening in the White House, that's completely out of my control. It'll be moments where my bank account looks a little scantless, it's not much going on in there, and I'm learning that is, the output that I'm putting out, whether it's just looking for jobs, looking for clients, trying to see what next opportunities I can create for myself, just generate an income. I haven't been getting the results that I want, but the output is there. So I find peace at the fact that I'm doing everything that I can that is within my control. Everything's out of my control. I can't stress about. And I know that what I'm learning about myself, that over the years that I have driven myself up the wall trying to be in control of everything. And I just can't. And instead of me losing sleep about it, I just go to sleep, So I know this might seem like a broken record, but for me, it really is a sense of reality that I'm actually embracing, and I am accepting that, and this is another level of growth for me, like just being able to like just kind of like let shit just go. I'm not the most religious person, but I definitely do believe that God has, sustained me, all the years I've been living independently. He has provided me with all of my needs, and I don't go without. So it's no need for me to stress out about things that's really not in my control. The things that I can control is my happiness and my joy, and finding, just pockets of happiness where I can be happy about, the things that I love pouring into, such as, talking on this podcast, engaging with my friends, going out to happy hour, and I ain't got no money, going to kick it with my friends, like just finding ways to just kind of remind myself that life is still going to go on with or without the problems that you have. So I learned how to just kind of practice affirmations. I speak over myself. I speak life into myself. And I just literally am learning to like let go. I am not an isolated thing. Unemployment right now, for a lot of Black women is a real thing. And I'm not an isolated situation. I've had a few friends have came to me within a matter of weeks telling me that they just was recently let go from their job, or they were laid off, and they don't know what their next situation is going to be. And as a person who's been there multiple times, I have learned that, one, I've learned tools, emotional and mental tools on how to navigate, tricks on how to get by, but then also just being able to just pray about all things, and just letting go. So that is where I'm at mentally. And then also just coming off of a 2-week trip back to Nigeria. I did go to Nigeria again. I have some content I actually need to edit with that. But I went to Nigeria, and it was the mental break that I needed. I love being back at home with my family. Getting to see my cousins, they bring me so much joy. The ones that I'm constantly meeting a new cousin, and I just, like my little cousin says, I just love having cousins. So it's great to be in that space and allow me to just kind of check out of all of the bullshit that's happening in the States. So I've been trying to carry that and trying to just try to stay in that peaceful place as long as I can, because it has helped me tremendously. So yeah. I hope that I didn't ramble too much, but this is giving you a little bit of insight, and plus, this is kind of a space that it allows me to be show a little bit of vulnerability. Excuse me, and then also, kind of get to know me a little bit more, because I don't want this to be like a one layered show where we're just talking about relationships. I really want people to know who I am, because I want to brand myself as this like digital girlfriend that you can talk to, you can listen to, someone that you can find relatable. So I hope that you found some comfort in my mental check-in. So there you have it. All right, so in this week's foolishness, I happened to stumble across Clarissa Shields. We all know Clarissa Shields' new girlfriend. Well, I don't want to consider her new, but the girlfriend of rapper Papoose, who is also the still husband of rapper Remy Ma. So in an interview, during the interview, the interviewer asked Clarissa how long is she going to be okay with being in a relationship with a married man. And Clarissa's response, of course, was quite interesting, to say the least. So she made sure to imply that she did not break up a happy marriage. If you want to say that Papoose is, Remy's husband, make sure to say that she is still Papoose's wife. I don't know why she thought she ate with that, but hey, let's go off, girl. So, with that, it drew some quite of interesting responses online. Also, I forgot to mention this. She was continuing to emphasize that Papoose was separated and has been pursuing a divorce, while completely rejecting the idea that she was knowingly participating in an active marriage. So again, social media had a few choice things to say, which I found to be, quite hilarious. One person on Threads, Bald-Headed Assassin, says, someone please let Clarissa Shields know that a marriage isn't dissolved with a petition for divorce / marriage dissolution, but with an actual divorce decree. Women be so eager to inherit some other women's problems. I mean, hello. Another lady on Whitney on TikTok said, if you're going to call him a husband, make sure to call her his wife. Clarissa, please. Girl. All these responses to me just kind of like triggered some thoughts in my mind about what we're going to be talking about later on in the show, about sustaining in a relationship that you think has a lot of pink ass flags, but it really is red. So romanticizing the fact that you are in this committed relationship with this man who's not fully divorced or divorced at all from his previous wife, or still wife. Their whole situation is just a fucking mess. But that she is still in this relationship with a married man, and we don't know the ins and outs of like the conversations that are being held within their relationship, and truth be told, I don't give a fuck. But I think the biggest thing amongst social media and society is that when is enough going to be enough? What is the hold up? Because I have heard of ways that women have been able to get out of a marriage that they no longer wanted to be in, whether the husband was stalling, or if one or both parties are stalling, then obviously something is still there for discovery. And all of this is literally making Clarissa look bad. I'm not really the one who just say it, but this is what the streets are saying, right? So I want to talk about that a little bit more, about romanticizing red flags, but we're gonna keep talking about the shit that's going on in social media, okay? So I was floating around TikTok. I spent a lot of time on TikTok, just seeing, what people are talking about. TikTok isn't as fun as it used to be, but whatever. And so I came across a video that just kind of reminded me of a conversation centered around Tamira Housley. Tamira Maury Housley, whatever, is the twin sister of Tia, the twin that seems like black people seem to love more, unfortunately. So in the video, it was her talking about how she held the financial responsibility of paying for her wedding to Adam, her husband, and from picking out the venue, paying for the decor, paying for her dress, all of the things. Literally, she was the one financially responsible for, and that caused like a huge uproar online. And I know, again, this might be old, but I still think that this is pretty prevalent. It's pretty much like an evergreen conversation as to why I believe that it is still relevant, because the display of how she was willing to accept absolutely nothing in exchange of marital vows is just absolutely insane to me. This man absolutely contributed nothing, and not only, has drawn some eyebrows, amongst, viewers and, social media. It kind of makes me wonder, what else are you settling for in your marriage? I mean, yes, everybody loves to paint their marriage to be, pockets full of sunshine and rainbows. But if this man is showing you that he's not a leader, and at least paying for something for your wedding, it kind of goes to show who carries the emotional responsibility within the marriage. But again, I've never been married, but I know a thing or two of what makes sense and what doesn't make sense. And baby girl, this don't make sense. So to me, I watched women love men through addiction, infidelity, near-death experiences, all of the things. But this right here is another testament as to why some people, specifically women, and maybe some men, but some women and men happen to stay in relationships that looks like it's, I'm all in because I'm in love with this person, and I'm so ready to give my all. And even when Janae Aiko said, I have enough love for the both of us, it really triggers off this idea that we romanticize a lot of relationships to really be exit signs. Those red flags, a lot of people seem to think that they're pink. And it's just mind-blowing to me that we still hold on to these ideas of what a relationship could be, because we are blinded by love, and in all actuality, we are not using our common sense. So I bring all of this up which brings me to our topic for today of romanticizing red flags. So you may want to sit back, maybe grab a pen and pencil, grab you a glass of wine, because we really gonna be talking about some shit. And I really want y'all to, take this episode and, share it with your friends And kind of let me know what y'all thoughts are, because baby, this is gonna be a little bit heavy. All right, so some of y'all may have an idea of what romanticizing red flags are. Some of you may not, and that's okay. So I'm kind of here to help you as your digital girlfriend, to kind of just give you like the basic interpretation of romanticizing red flags. So basically, it's treating unhealthy, toxic, or warning sign behaviors in a relationship as they were attractive, passionate, or a proof of love, instead of recognizing them as potential problems. So a few months ago, I wrote an article about how there are so many red flags in dating, and most times they are overlooked. It might be like the funny red flags, like if a guy wears a dangling earring, red flag. If, a girl wears kitten heels, red flag. I think it's petty, but some men feel that way, i.e. Jim Jones. If a man is still cool with his baby mama and he's trying to out here date and the baby's not even a year old, red flag. If a woman is pregnant and she's out here trying to date other men, red motherfucking flag. It's just so many of those things, right? But it can be a little bit deeper than that. So, it depends. Red flags can be situational. It can be extreme jealousy. It can be possessiveness. It can be emotional availability, which I think most of us have experienced. Of just wanting to just earn your love, or, I'm here to just endure, the bullshit that you're putting me through, because I want you to know that I'm going to love you through the worst, so you can see me at the best when you finally decide that I'm rocking with you. All of these things are red flags. And we romanticize them because we think that, our love is going to be able to endure past the bullshit. When in actuality, you are proving yourself to be nothing but his favorite dummy. And we need to talk about that a little bit more. So when it comes to romanticizing red flags, I think from what I've seen, social media, maybe some friend groups, or maybe it's just a reflection amongst oneself, that it's celebrated or it's normalized, certain behaviors and traits that, oftentimes are our big ass indicator that, okay, this relationship is not going to be healthy or conducive to anyone's mental state. That can show up in like manipulation, lying, of course, inconsistencies, whether it be from communication or just emotional inconsistency. Like one minute they're all up on you, next minute they're cold and they don't want nothing to do with you. The emotional vitality that is usually exercised in some relationships or some connections are definitely huge indicators of red flags that oftentimes people seem to ignore because they are chasing after what they want, which is this titled relationship. Oh, I want to be somebody's girlfriend, or I want to be somebody's boyfriend, or what the fuck ever, or I want to be somebody's wife, or I want to have a husband, or I want to be somebody's husband. All of this shit that people, they're chasing after this type of title, which makes them want to just settle for what's given to them. And I think that a lot of times that has become so problematic when it comes to, dating, because some people are not setting the precedent. They're not setting the standard of how to be treated. And then also there are people who are literally exercising these behaviors knowing that someone is going to accept their shit, because they're not taking the proper steps to heal themselves or to put in the work to be better mates. Because again, the objective of having these conversations, I know I'm a one-man band right now, but the purpose of having these conversations is to have a certain level of accountability and to do some self-reflection, because in order for our dating pool to get better, we have to start within. We have to start with us. I am a firm believer that in order for change to happen, the change has to start amongst ourselves. So again, rather than viewing a lot of these behaviors as warning signs, these are desirable traits. Like it's some women who actually get their rocks off by like seeing this shit. Like, oh my God, like this, Like when he talks stern to me, like that turns me on. No, that's not cute, girl. Mm-mm. When a woman calls a man a bitch, that's and like you like crazy, like I always hear guys say, man, I love my bitch when she start acting crazy, that's how I know she loved me. That's not love, that's possessiveness, and that is also a huge indicator of red flags. I really want people to really start to understand that a lot of the things that we think are cute are not things that we think that may be, that might be rugged as dressed up in love. It's not. And again, like what makes it even more worse is that we see these conversations on social media, we see these in celebrity relationships, we hear it in some of the songs that we listen to, we see it in the television storylines, we see it all around us, and it takes a certain level of emotional intelligence to be able to identify that these things are not healthy, right? So I think in order for us to really be able to bypass that is really just learning how to get around this emotional curve. So I brought up Clarissa Shields, for example, and I don't want to say that Clarissa still being in this relationship with Papoose is a romanticized red flag, but I will say that it is adjacent to that. I mean, because this is compromising relationship ethics, still dating somebody who was legally married. There are some people that have been there, and again, every situation is different. I mean, so take for example Shawnee O'Neal, now Shawnee Henderson, and her husband Keon. I remember him discussing in an interview, or probably in church, I can't remember, but I do remember him sharing that at the time when he met Shawnee, he had already filed for divorce, and I think he was like 6 months out from divorce being finalized, and he shared that he did not want to wait until the divorce was finalized for him to officially start dating Shawnee, because he didn't want to miss his beat. Now, from an emotional standpoint, yeah, that's cute, that he decided that he wanted to pursue this relationship with someone who is now his wife, but from from an ethical standpoint, that can be a bit problematic. But again, every situation is not the same. I get it. But I think overall, we do need to be mindful of the interactions that we have with people and the decision making that we make while we are entering into these new, connections, right? So, some people, again, Clarissa is such like a pinnacle thing to just use. I'm just using her as a tool, and I'm not saying that I'm not trying to pin her as a person who was wrong, but I can say that there are people who may think that, they'll look at Clarissa and Papoose situation, then Shawnee and her husband situation, or just somebody that you may know personally who has started dating other people while they are in, the weight of finalizing their divorce. Some people may see it as, he's separated, so the paperwork doesn't really matter because the emotional tie is gone, or, since he chose me, then, this is where real love is, or, the happiness ended when way before I even came along. It can be so many like nuanced thoughts that can help, that allows people to justify their reasonings as to why I wanted to pursue, a relationship, such as what Clarissa and Papoose is on. And again, I don't really care about the relationship that much. I'm just using it as an example as to, what people can do to romanticize red flags. Because, let's keep it a buck. Somebody like Papoose, who I feel like Remy Ma and Papoose, they've been out of each other's lives emotionally for over 2 years, maybe longer. It still does not justify that, ethically one door has not closed and you went on ahead and opened up 2-3 more. I'm just saying, so as we explore, romanticizing red flags, like what are some of the things that we need to be able to identify in order to ensure that we are avoiding running into these potholes of relationships. So the first indicator that I would say that a lot of times that people fall in is falling in love with potential. Ooh, I done got in some of y'all business. Oh my God, I know that he got 3-4 kids, but he take care of them, and I know he want to settle down, but him and his baby mama, I know they have their off and ons, but he really seemed like he fuck with me. I've heard conversations like that. Or I think once he gets over the fact that he don't have any money right now, I think he's gonna be a great guy. I've heard conversations like that before, and in my younger days, baby, I've been there. Trying to justify where a person is at and creating this image of what they could be is what you call falling in love with potential. And we have got to stop with the bullshit. Seriously. Because here's the thing about potential. Potential is not a personality. Potential is not a partner. Potential is really projection. This is you falling in love with a version of a person that you believe that someday will become if they just try harder, if they healed a little bit more, and if they just chose you just a bit differently from what they have chosen previously with someone else. So, and again, I think it's also important that we remember that although we are special, we are not special. Like, we are not the exception. Like, let me make this very clear. We may be special, but we are not the exception. And you can't believe that someone is going to be someone that you think that you want them to be. That's not love. That is a pet project. That is construction. That is a Build-A-Bear. That is, you are signing up to become somebody's emotional and mental contractor. And that is not what we were placed on this earth to do. When you fall in love with potential, you're not in a relationship with the person. You are a relationship with the person that you think that they will end up being once they understand your love language. And a lot of times we're shorting ourselves in a full loving experience by thinking that way. You're creating this person to be a fictional character in your mind. This man or this woman has shown themselves to be someone who may be unreliable emotionally, maybe unreliable mentally and physically, who's unsure about you, who has been inconsistent with their thought process when it comes to like giving you a direct answer, the trajectory and the direction of a relationship. But you just hold on to it because this is something that you feel comfortable in. Oh, I'm attracted to them, or I love them, or they do this thing that I absolutely admire. They love their mama, they love their daddy, they have a decent paying job, they got their own crib. Those tangible things are just not enough to equate to a person who it could be valued as a full lifelong partner, because again, we are blinding ourselves in what this person could be versus in what they actually are. Another thing that I notice that we do is we mask chaos for chemistry. Oh, yeah. We're getting somewhere here, people. We're getting here. So we're getting somewhere. Masking chaos for chemistry. So a lot of times, when I've talked to girlfriends, or just like some girls, like, when they talk online, the biggest indicator that we are in some midst of some bullshit, and this is where discernment comes in, is confusing butterflies for emotional connection. Baby, that's nothing but roaches telling you to run. Okay? So again, if someone is, making you guess, making you question where you stand in their life, they only want to show up when it's convenient for them. So that means that where they'll call you, when they are bored, or they just have the flexibility in the space. Like I remember, I'll give myself as an example. I remember that I was dating a guy that I didn't always hear from. Like, he will only contact me when he had absolutely nothing going on, where he was just completely free from work. And it used to like bother me, but it was like I was just so caught up in like liking this guy and just being excited to like hear from him. I'm not seeing that this is some bullshit that he's presenting to me. Oh, I'm just busy, I'm out here moving around, this and that. When in actuality, he's telling me that like, you are convenient and you're going to eat up all the bullshit I'm giving you because you are allowing it. And I'm gonna play in your face all day long until you realize it. That's just what it was. So again, I constantly was in this place of guessing, and I see a lot of women fall victim to that as well, that you're constantly guessing, like, well, he contacts me, he talks to me, we hang out and stuff, but I really just don't know where we're at. Chaos. Again, it's a big ass exit sign that's right there, and you're not taking it. And a lot of times when we don't, move towards the exit sign, we take on so many self-inflicted wounds in connections that we had no business being in longer than what these connections were supposed to happen to show you something. It's supposed to show you what you don't need, that you don't deserve, what you don't need to deal with. And again, some women have been programmed to just, again, endure or just, see things through or give the benefit of the doubt. Just like how Frankie Blue said, don't give a nigga a benefit of the doubt. Doubt the benefit of a nigga. Hello, come on, somebody. That's just what it is, okay? So, healthy love is not supposed to be an audition in someone else's life. Okay? Healthy love is really just showing up and making the emotional sacrifices that is not bothersome to anyone. It shouldn't require you to decode mixed signals or celebrating the bare minimum. Oh my God, he sent me a text message today telling me he's thinking about me. Oh my God, he bought me some food today. He really cares. Who gives a fuck? Like that's bare minimum where he's breadcrumbing. Breadcrumbing is definitely a thing when it comes to romanticizing red flags. Breadcrumbing is definitely a thing when you're dealing with someone who's a narcissist, which probably we'll get into a whole nother conversation. And again, I'm really big on discernment, and a lot of times our bodies, our mind, it's really telling us that where we need to exit stage left, and we stay. And when the more emotional inconsistency that we take on, the more we start to second guess ourselves and our worth and, am I enough to be loved? And this is not towards just any sex. Let me make this very clear. But there are times that I find, I'm a girl's girl, and I see that so many women start to question themselves. I've even been in that space of like, am I enough? Because, he's just not giving me what I'm giving him. And I think that's where we have to just learn that wherever a person had you fucked up at, that's where you leave, okay? So we've been taught that, relationships, are supposed to be easy. If they're easy, that they're boring. It's no excitement when, there's not yelling and screaming and all of that. I just never understood like why some people think that way. Like, I constantly have to be on edge with you in order to know that, I'm still in it with you. In all actuality, when a person is adding value to your life, you're supposed to be at peace. You have so much, going on. I mean, we are living in Trump America, okay? We are living in an economy that is down right now. We are living where 700,000 women, black women, are unemployed. We are living in a rental crisis, a housing crisis. Like, why the fuck do I need to fight you to love me? Like, that's crazy as hell to me. But there's some people who really have not understood what self-worth is about. So when I say that, we mistake chaos for chemistry, sometimes we do. So real love isn't just measured, through the chaos that we endured. It is a peace that is being created, with one another. So let's just be mindful of that, all right? And the final point is staying longer than you need to. So the biggest question that I ask, myself, if in the past, or, what some friends have posed to me, or just some things I've just analyzed, like, when you're in these, relationships that really doesn't have any direction, you're just on a boat with someone, you don't know where the fuck you going, you just on it. And you stay on this boat because you want someone to just kind of anchor it with you, right? But you are in a sinking ship. You're in a sinking boat. So the question is, like, why do you stay? Why do we stay in these connections? Why do we feel like we need to hold on to this person who does not have the emotional capacity to love me or to care about me or to show up for me the way that I am showing and loving and caring for them? What are we doing? Here are a few reasons why. It's a sunken cost. Now, the reason why I pose it that way is that we view relationships as investments, right? So like think about something that you have put an actual financial stock in, like a business or a home or whatever. You put in time and energy to build up something, and for it not to work, it is a sunken cost. And that's the same thing that can be applied, when it comes into relationships. We invest our emotions. We invest time getting to know someone, understanding their needs while neglecting ours, because, sometimes relationships we do that. Investing time, energy, emotions, money, that has us feeling like all of that ended up being a waste. So whether it be in relationships to marriages, when they don't work or when they come to an end, it's a sunken cost. And it may not always be monetarily. It can be a costly hit to our emotions. It can be a costly hit to our mental, and it may end up being, financial, because sometimes we got to take ourselves to therapy in order to fix us. You know what I'm saying? But staying in a bad situation longer than what you need to isn't protecting your investment. It's not enhancing your investment. If anything, you're creating more of a loss. So take your losses early. And then also, it's like this fear of like starting over. Like for some reason, people feel like, walking away from a relationship is scary. And I can only imagine, I've been in a relationship in a very long time, but it is scary when someone that has been a part of your life now has to become a stranger. Now has to become somebody that you no longer know, right? And that can be terrifying. Like literally you have to start from like ground zero. But here is the thing. You're not starting from ground zero. You are not losing, a person. You're gaining yourself back. You are gaining your level of self-respect back. You are coming back to loving you. So I wouldn't say that that's a loss. I would say it's more of an homecoming. You feel me? So when we let go of things that are no longer serving to us, we remember the things that brought us joy, and we have to remember who we were or who we are, especially having to know this new version of you that has went through this experience. Because I don't always want to call breakups a waste of time. I don't think that. If anything, it's a lesson learned. We all navigating life in all capacities, whether it be work, personal, professional, interpersonal relationships, romantic, any relationships, that we encounter that does not always pan out the way that we want to, the way that we anticipated, is a lesson. You are gaining something from it that's going to be of value. You are gaining data that is going to be beneficial to your growth, and it won't be beneficial unless you allow it to be. You see what I'm saying? So I think that once we start changing our minds in how we exit out of these connections, it'll be so it will be so more rejuvenating when we come back to ourselves. And the last point is that, you remain on this high of like the good moments. So a lot of times people stay in, these connections because they're holding on to the good moments. Like, oh my God, when we took this trip, like we were just so in love with each other. Or, when we had this one Thanksgiving or one Christmas, together, it was just such like a great moment for us. And they're holding on to that. And they're holding on to that moment until they can exchange it for a better moment. So when we're doing that, we're playing this huge mental and emotional tug of war with ourselves that, you may have had these moments, but does it outweigh the entirety of the relationship? Does it outweigh the healthiness and the growth and the longevity of what this relationship could look like? Are you even viewing it is your mate looking at the relationship in the same lens as you? Those are things that you have to weigh, and a lot of times we negate that. So when you're holding on to these good moments and you're letting go, like, oh well, he was good to me during Christmas, but we're gonna forget all the times that he cheated on you, or she showed up for me when such and such died, but we're gonna forget how she played you and cursed you out in front of her friends just to prove that she runs shit. Like, we always tend to forget, ourselves when we are holding on to these good moments. And that's why we leave some relationships and certain connections feeling empty. And sometimes you probably do need to leave empty because you are releasing all of those toxic connections in order for you to get back to yourself. So staying longer than you need to is doing more harm than good. And once you start really, really depicting and shaving and peeling back the layers as to measuring, is this relationship conducive for me and my growth? Is this conducive to my happiness? Is this adding value to my world? Is this adding peace? If you can't really give yourself a definite yes that I am happy in this relationship, then I think it's time that we start having those real hard conversations with ourselves. Before we close out of this portion of the show, here are some things that I would offer up to you to do. So if you find yourself, living in these romantic red flags or these toxic connections, the first thing I'll ask for you to do is to write down what your ideal relationship will look like and compare it to what your actual relationship looks like now, if you are in one. Just take a piece of paper, do a pros and cons, compare and contrast. Hell, do a Venn diagram. Shit, whatever works for you. And put in all the facts. No feelings, no context, no excuses. Just write down what it really is from your lens. And then step back and really take a look. Once you are able to see draw some conclusions for yourself, you'll be able to know what's next for you. The next point is, talk to your friends. I'm talking about like everybody has a friend that's going to keep it 1,000 with them. I have guy friends who love to check me because I'm going to keep it a buck with you. We really as a whole need to bring back shame, right? Because bringing back shame and highlighting it, keeps us out of situations. Shame keeps us in situations, but when someone sheds a light on the shame, it starts to set off some bells in one's mind. I know it does it for me. So when we say it out loud to somebody that we feel safe and comfortable with, we start to release the shackles from amongst ourselves and actually really hear how crazy it is. Like, I'm in love with a man who's in jail and he's trying to control my household. I'm only using this as an example because I saw this on Love After Lockup. Bring back shame. Having those friends that keep you accountable will keep us out of bullshit. Also, it's okay to grieve the life that you thought that you were going to have with the person, but don't actually grieve the person. Let me explain. So a lot of the times, we break our own hearts in believing that this person is going to be our dream person. This person is going to be our knight in shining armor, or our queen, or, whatever your preference is. And idolizing a person that we thought was going to be greater than what we imagined them to be. And we have to allow ourselves to break our hearts in order for us to move on and to let that dream go, in order for us to be able to allow the right person who is fully designed for you to come in. And I'm talking about in reality. So we're not living in this fantasy anymore. Really just break your own heart and come out of this fantasy. So the person who is in reality, who has done the work, who is ready to love you, who is ready to show up as a partner and to be, a leader, or whatever, how you want a person to really show up in your space, they're going to come to that, but they won't be able to come unless you go through this phase of heartbreak. All right. So give yourself, permission to mourn, and then let that shit go. And the most important part is rebuild the relationship that you had with yourself. The reason why we hallucinate over these lame ass niggas or these lame ass bitches, I don't know their names, so that's why I'm calling them that, is we are grieving the people who aren't even worth even having in our lives. And we abandon ourselves in the process. So when you finally decide to let go and you've shedded all your tears and you've, deleted all of those photos and the pictures and the text messages and the videos and the TikToks and whatever and the reels of this said person, and you really decided to give it the proper funeral that it deserves, get back to you. I know Drake said, we're dropping 10 pounds preparing for summer. All of the things, or get your hair, nails, feet done. Get back into your hobbies. Get back into your passion projects. Get back to this newer version of you. Because that old version is not there anymore. That person left when you decided to get into this relationship with this person. Now you have data. Now you know what your worth is, the things that works for you, the things that don't. And sometimes we can't forget that, it's somebody out here who really is ready to fuck with us, where we're at. You may be subconscious about your weight. You may be subconscious about your skin. You may be concerned that, you don't have enough money in your bank account. I mean, if you don't have no money in your bank account, I don't think you should be dating. But if there are certain things that you haven't been able to accomplish, now is the time, because you are back in your single season. And being single, I have to emphasize, it's not easy, but it is literally life's gift to put you back in a training ground to be a better version of yourself until the right person comes into your life. So do what makes you feel good. Do what you want. Travel the world. Explore new hobbies, go sewing, go swimming, try a new hairstyle, try a new, style of clothing. Try out things until it makes you feel whole again. But really spend time with you, because as that chapter closes, this portion of your life is yours, and it is yours for the taking. And I'll leave you with this. Take what resonates and leave what doesn't. All right? All right, so y'all know that I absolutely love this portion of the show, which I am giving you the single file of the week. And due to me not being able to have any licensing, and I don't want this to be flagged, I am just going to share with you the song that I would love for you all to just go back and listen to and possibly journal on. So after I gave you the previous points of, taking out a pen and paper and just to kind of jot down some of your thoughts of what you look for in a relationship, My single file, which I would love for you to listen to while you do so, is Misunderstood by Lucky Day. And I chose this song because obviously one, it's a vibe. Shouts out to Lucky Day. But this is a song that resonates with what we've been talking about this entire episode. I mean, so this is literally just, you're like knee deep in a situationship that doesn't even have a name or a title on it. And you're making excuses for the confusion. And you're just trying to convince yourself of somehow this is like a romantic thing. Like this is like a real thing. So, with Lucky Day, he's been able to kind of define that by like the overthinking, pushing away, but just really just being completely misunderstood, of wanting to love and wanting to be loved. So, I hope that, this song, again, if you haven't heard it in a long time, this will be a good reason to go back and run that shit back. And I feel like, when he said maybe we're better misunderstood, just really ask yourself, am I choosing confusion because it feels like depth, or am I just afraid that what clarity could cost me? So just think about that while you listen to the record. So as you have Lucky Day playing, softly in the background while you sipping on whatever you sipping on, or you may have some trees in the air, whatever you feel that you need to do for relaxation. I do want you to take some more time to write out your thoughts. So I am probing, and again, this is just optional. This is a way for me just to connect with you all, and this is also just a way to disconnect with yourself. So if you are journaling, I would want to ask you this question: would your inner child be proud of what your love life looks like? And the reason why I ask that is sometimes we date people that neglect our own emotional needs. And someone like me who has been in relationships or have dealt with connections with people who just were not emotional, self-serving, who were just not givers, who were just takers. It had me doing some self-reflecting on the relationship that I had with myself. So I would ask, would my younger version of me, be proud of the people that I chose to be in my world? Do they make me feel safe? Would she feel safe, around them? Would she be confused with dealing with heartbreak? How would that impact her? Because it has some effect on me now. So I think about all these things. So what does starting over look like? So really just take, a few moments to yourself, to really ask that question: would your inner child be happy with what your love life looks like today, and why? And allow this to be more of an emotional dump for you. And if it does trigger some things, write that out. What would you want to change? Because this is, again, we're in a season of, this is kind of like a battleground. This is the battlefield of the mind, rather. And we are preparing ourselves to be better versions. But in order for us to be better versions, we have to go through the ugly phases. So, get your thoughts out on paper, cry about it. Hell, even call your therapist up, honey. There's still room to do that. But do that as a way for it to be self-soothing and let it be therapeutic. So just get honest, get quiet, and write it out. All right, y'all. So we have concluded a brand new episode of the Single Files with B.Kadijat. I really, really hope that you all enjoyed, this conversation with myself. And I was able to drop a few nuggets, that resonated with you all. I can't believe that I've been talking for this long by myself. I have not done this in so long, but it feels so good to get back on the mic and chat with you guys. So just a few, please be sure to follow me on all social media platforms. You can find me, my personal page, at B.Kadijat, which is B-K-A-D as in dog, I-J-A-T, on all social media platforms. Be sure to follow the podcast page on Facebook, The Single Files with B.Kadijat. I am on Substack. It is signed B.Kadijat at Substack. I'll drop all of my socials if you all can't catch that. I'm on YouTube. I'm on Threads, so please be sure to add me. I would love to kind of keep this conversation going. I think it's so important that we spread the word, spread the love, y'all, because I'm trying to get my numbers back up. I know that I've been out the way for a while, but I thought it was just really, it's a good time for me to just drop this while my head is clear. And then also, if you want to send me some topics, because I would love to, because I actually need help with topics. But if there's some things that you want me to talk about, I would love to talk about it. I am trying to figure out ways to get some additional voices on here, so just bear with me. I've been saying this for a while. It is coming. I just don't know when. So charge it to my head, not my heart. All right. And lastly, I hope this episode hit home for you. Some may have some feelings about it, but I do want to hear your thoughts. So again, drop your comments at the bottom of the episode. Make sure you are rating the episode. You are sharing it out. Again, at me on Threads, because I would love to keep the conversation going. But yes, so until next time, y'all, make sure that you are taking care of yourself and your heart. And again, we are all on this road together to heal, so we show up better in the world, not for others, but just for ourselves. All right. So until next time, this is your girl B.Kadijat, and this is The Single Files. Take care.